Welcome to Researcher 135's Community Call, Daily Talk, with host Rich Vernadeau. Daily Talk, Researcher 135's Community Call. Daily Talk is a weekly call-in talk show which airs on www.talkshow.com every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern, and 5 Pacific.
Community Call, Daily Talk, and this is the June edition, and Saturday. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very important event which recently occurred, the Orlando shooting rampage. Dan Patrick of Tampa, Florida, e-commerce professor who lives in Tampa, Florida. He has family in the Orlando area. He will be talking to us about this devastating tragedy, which is the greatest mass shooting loss of life in U.S. history. Of course, it was a traumatic event for the victims and for their families, and we are all, from the news, all of us aware of the, shall we say, religious and political leanings of the killer, who after killing 49 people then killed himself after an extended standoff with police there at the Pulse Club in Orlando. And I would like for any of our listeners to feel free to call in with their questions and with their comments. And again, with Daily Talk, Researcher 135 Community Call, which is a Rich Vernadeau production, I want to issue this disclaimer. The statements, beliefs, and opinions of callers and guests do not necessarily reflect those of either the host, Rich Vernadeau, or of Rich Vernadeau Productions. Again, feel free to speak your mind. Feel free to speak your opinion. Please be tasteful and respectful of the victims and the families. This is going to be a very powerful show because we're dealing with a very tragic event. And unfortunately, there have been so many mass shootings in the past many years, it's become far too common of a news event. It's happening in many, many different states. Everything from school shootings to shootings in theaters, all different parts of the country. Of course, the Fort Hood incident comes to mind as well. Good evening. We have Florida, Tampa Metro on the line. Hello, Dan Patrick.
Hey, good evening, Rich. How you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Fine. Yeah, I think we were going to talk about some of the more outrageous events taking place in the last few weeks in America. Some of them not too far away from my home. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other topics that you have in mind. That's certainly on my mind and a lot of other Americans, I'm sure.
Well, it's become a pivotal key issue in the election 2016 as well because, of course, obviously the issues surrounding gun control and gun control legislation obviously come into play, and various factions, various political factions have reacted and are reacting to the Orlando shooting. So being there in Florida, tell me the response, Dan, from your neck of the woods, and I understand you do have family in Orlando.
Yeah, I have family in Orlando. I actually have a sister, two adult nieces, and two grandnieces in the area, as a matter of fact. And actually, one of the nieces is looking for work, and she actually applied for a job for that week. They needed extra hands over there at the Pulse nightclub. I used to live in Orlando. It was my first home when I moved to Florida, and I'm pretty familiar with where it's at. It's downtown. And a more seedier area away from Disney. I don't want anybody out there to get the impression that this place is anywhere near Kissimmee, which is where Disney. This is in downtown, old downtown Orlando, which is I guess for lack of a better term, on the wrong side of the tracks type place. So this wasn't really an upscale area where this took place at, my friend, is just disgraceful. If that's not, it's the deadliest shooting on American soil in history, period. second worst terrorist act in America's soil since 9/11, and Obama refuses to declare it an emergency situation or acknowledge that it was done by radical Islamic factions. I don't know if anybody knows the history of this man, other than that he was a security guard. The FBI had him on a watch list. They cut him a gun anyway, legally. He's a legal carry. You know, he was abiding by the Second Amendment rules. But his father was running for president of Afghanistan. He's a very wealthy man, and he is a very pro-Taliban individual who broadcast, and I found the broadcast on YouTube. And eerily enough, although he broadcast out of somewhere out of California and somewhere out of Afghanistan from time to time, he uses a Fort Pierce, Florida address for donations from Islamic people around the globe to collect money to continue his broadcast and pro-Taliban propaganda. So to say that these people aren't linked to radical Islamic terrorist behavior is just ludicrous, to say the least.
I saw several news clips of interviews with the dad. I think Charlie Rose at one point from CBS talked to him, and several other people did. So the dad got a considerable amount of airplay afterwards, and I think it's very clear this was an Islamic terrorist incident, and it should be treated as such. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is some of the response that you're seeing there in Florida to this terrible event?
Well, people are horrified. After the attack, ISIS made an announcement that Orlando, Washington, D.C., and New York will be ground zero for attacks. Well, it's obvious why Washington, D.C., right, capital of what they hate, United States. New York City, financial capital of what they hate. They've been trying to do stuff in New York City for decades now. In Orlando, happiest place on earth. Scare the people away from Disney, and you're going to put a hood on the economy, right? And that was their intent. That's what the intent of terror is, to, scare people out of doing their day-to-day routines.
And one of the very important remarks that Donald Trump made, and which I agree with, and which it's absolutely a no-brainer, is if someone there in the club had been, either carrying a concealed weapon or even an open carry weapon, as the case may be, depending upon what the Florida laws and regulations are regarding that gunman would have been taken out a lot sooner without the standoff with the police, without the additional loss of life that took place during the final hours. Now, somebody being armed there on the scene could have gotten rid of the guy right off the bat.
Well, one thing, Rich, people have come up with, and a New York police officer, former New York police officer from their special ops, people, I guess a special ops in New York City is sort of like a SWAT team type guy.
Right.
A weapons expert went all through all of the carnage and said that it couldn't possibly have been done by one stressed out individual. He said that his top marksmen and his group could not have loaded and reloaded that semi-automatic and killed with the accuracy that this man could. So there is some suspicion that he was not acting alone. There may have been as many as 2 or 3 other radical Islamics in that building at the time. And after reading what this former police detective, special ops, had to say, made 150% truth to me. That this man comes in with a handgun or an AK-16 or 14, whatever, and with all these hundreds of people around him, he's able to load, reload, and hit with an enormous. He said that the guy hit with almost an accuracy of 100%. And he goes, even my very best people that I've had underneath me could come even close to that by themselves. So there may have been people who strategically positioned in that nightclub that may have been shooting. The government's not good. The government wasn't even going to tell you that it was a radical Islamic person, and they weren't even going to release the 911 call he made, pledging allegiance to ISIS and the religion of Islam before he went in and started the shooting. So do you think they're going to tell you anything else true about the shooting?
all I got to say is thank God for the news media in cases like this. And what is the phrase, the fourth arm, the fourth branch? You know, the media is what exposed Watergate, as you'll recall, and it's been the media that's always been the watchdog that helps the existing branches of government to give them some scrutiny, to shine that spotlight where it needs to be shined.